So the album Low Blow, what was top 5 on iTunes, right?
Top 2. Well, so it was top 2 hip hop. We were behind Travis Scott, beat Post Malone, which is cool.
The pride of Nashville, Tennessee, Mogli The Iceburg. Welcome, dude. I was telling you off air. You came out with your what do you guys, a collective? Is that what Indie Tribe is? Is a collective?
We're a boy band.
Boy band, the new NSYNC, because we got 5 members now. Like Low Blow by Indie Tribe, best album that came out in 2023, and we're not even done in the year yet, but it is the best album. I got to ask though, you guys released a video for the song Casket.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the dude in the motorcycle helmet, and how do I get that job for the next video?
So I guess one, you would have to be Dill's biological brother, because that's the criteria for for him. Is actually funny because so we were keeping Tori Deshawn, the new member of Indie Tribe, we were keeping him a secret until our festival, when we brought him out at the end of the stage and did a song with him and everything. But we had done like photo shoots and stuff together. He had been part of Indie Tribe for over a year. So we had already started Low Blow before Tori came on. So we wanted to finish that with like that lineup and put that out into the world before bringing somebody else. But we did several photo shoots where Tori was there and he was a secret. So we did like photos with him and then photos without him and stuff. But people were getting suspicious of like a new member. So during that time, we just used Dill's brother as like misdirection. And he even like found his way into like, and being in some of like the official like artist photos and stuff. And everybody's like, who is this? It's just like, oh, well, he's Indie Tribe.
So Indie Tribe, for those who don't know, probably the greatest hip hop group to come out right now, is a collective boy band. How do you guys come about, like with Low Blow, you're not on every song. John Keith isn't on every song. So how's the creative process with that? So
for us, we're all solo artists and we all have our own things going on. And one of the things is that we try to keep Indie Tribe as its own like artistic identity. So I think a lot of times when you see, especially in hip hop, when you see like these collaboration efforts, it tends to feel just kind of like one of the old like compilation CDs that you might have picked up in like the early 2000s and stuff, and it's just a bunch of solo artists collaborating with each other. But we really want to establish Indie Tribe as its own artistic voice, so we all do things differently for Indie Tribe than we do with our solo stuff. And that just naturally means that like we write songs for the best purpose of, our individual strengths and stuff and what we bring into it. And that just naturally doesn't always include everybody. Sometimes it does, but especially, adding a new member into it, it's probably going to be less frequent that we have every single person on one track. But as you know, we actually do writing camps together, and that's how we at least start all of our projects. So we live together for about a week, and we do some life in the morning. We do like some like scripture devotionals, and then we just live and create together. And through spending that time together, it's like there's natural dynamics that happen with certain people. So like me and John have discovered that there's a dynamic that it's just sometimes when me and him lock in, that it makes certain types of songs. And it's a different dynamic when just John and Dill lock in. And sometimes the dynamic is able to suit all of us in a way that we can contribute to the vision of what we have for Indie Tribe. And sometimes it just makes sense not to keep everybody on, but we try to offer some balance with it, and make sure everybody has moments and stuff, and try to write to like an ebb and flow on an album as well. That's another thing. We're kind of album artists, and I think the fact that we're all solo artists kind of enables that. It's like we can afford to take longer stretches away from Indie Tribe releases, because it's like we all have our solo endeavors that we're doing that keep momentum rolling. So we like to try to create a moment and and really let the albums breathe as opposed to just like putting a bunch of singles out.
So going back to 2016, that was your first independent or your first solo release, right? Was it 2016?
Yeah, 2015. Yeah.
2015.
2015.
And then how did you go? Because it looked like around, what was your second album? You started bringing around No Big Deal, Dill, right? Was it the second album?
So he was actually, it's interesting. So the 2015 was my first like Spotify release, but at that time I had already, that was probably like the 8th album that I had made. But yeah, I started like making music in high school and like burning mixtapes and stuff and just selling. So I made like, I probably did 4 full-length projects before I put anything online. And then when DatPiff was a thing during the mixtape era from like 2011 to 2015, we were doing like stuff on DatPiff and SoundCloud. But I mean, like I consider 2015 to be like the canon kind of like first real. Everything else before that was kind of like practice. But when I was finishing up my first project, I met Dill for the first time. We both went to MTSU. He's a year older than me, so he had actually graduated and I was a senior when we met. And it's funny, there's another artist from Nashville named Derek Minor. So Dill was road managing him and I was just trying to get plugged into some community. And Derek is a Christian artist as well, and like he was doing things in a way that I thought was rare for people to incorporate like faith in their music. So I was like, I want to try to link up with that guy. So they were doing the Winter Jam tour and I was just gonna go to the merch booth because he was like one of the openers. So it was like fairly accessible, probably going to be out there taking pictures or whatever. I was like, I'm just going to wait for him to come out and maybe I can get a word. We have some mutual friends. And Dill was managing his merch and he had recognized me from some stuff that I was doing, like just in the city and stuff. It's funny at the time, like I had like more momentum in my career. Like Dill hadn't put any music out. So like he was like, hey man, I've been, following you and like, I think we should link up. So he gave me his number and we started just connecting and soon it just became like apparent that we were two people that had kind of a unique vision for how we wanted to approach art and life, that were also like kind of had a plan that, in Nashville, everybody's a musician, but it's only out of everybody that tries to make music, it's 1% of those people that have like here's how I'm going to do it. I've saved up some money. Here's where I'm trying to make a dent here. Here's a marketing plan. So it's like, we were kind of some of the only people that we knew that had the same mentality and reason for why we were creating art, had the same professionalism and how we were going to do it. And that we actually just happened to like what we were doing and it was compatible. So we just started working together and yeah, everything else has just kind of been a slow build from then.
So how did you guys come up with Indie Tribe?
So Indie Tribe originally, it was something that Dill had kind of like had as a very kind of a broad idea about just like this idea of community within art, and something that we both have a very DIY mentality. So part of it was like the idea of like doing this independently and utilizing each other's networks and strengths and all of that to just bootstrap it. But the other part of it was like the music business was really in a transition point when the whole thing was like conceptualized, because like streaming was just really starting to crack into mainstream. A lot of people, like there were a lot of conversations about just like how nobody can make money on streaming. Everybody was like still trying to sell albums, but nobody was buying albums. There was just a lot of turbulence there. So part of it was like we wanted to approach the business in a way that was like thinking independently about like, of the world's doing one thing, we're going to independently champion this, so as much of the ethos of just being like truly indie from a music business perspective, but also just like we're going to move together as a community. We're going to do it independently. And then as believers, it's like kind of the idea of like in the world and not of it. Like we're independent from the waves of culture. Like we're grounded in what we believe, and we're going to stay true to that conviction and not just like ride the wave of everybody else. So that was like the very like broad conceptualization of Indie Tribe. And for a long time, like from 2015 to 2021, there was one official Indie Tribe release, you know? So it's like, we weren't even like officially like making music. We'd appear on each other's albums and stuff like that. But most of it was just a community aspect. We weren't really, it wasn't like an artistic entity at that point. So there were some other people that, along the way became part of Indie Tribe. And for one reason or another, you know, it just wasn't in the cards for that group of people to really mesh together in a way that could like create what Indie Tribe is. So in 2020, late 2020, there was like a reformation of the idea of Indie Tribe as like an artistic act. And that's when we brought on John Keith and Michael, and immediately like there was just so much chemistry. It's like, we need to do what we've always been dreaming of, which was just like actually live together and just make as much music as possible. So we rented an Airbnb in Chattanooga and locked in with some producers. We had our photographer come along and our videographer, and we actually filmed like a short, well, it's actually not short at all. It's like 90 minutes. It's like a 90-minute documentary of like the first album we made. But yeah, that was kind of like the genesis of like Indie Tribe as it is today.
Now it's your independent or your solo stuff is very different from the Indie Tribe. So what has been your, cause you came out with your latest single back in, I want to say May, right? Ain't like that.
Something.
And I, you know, even like John Keith's stuff is very different from the Indie Tribe stuff, and your solo stuff is more sad boy. Maybe we're tapping more into our rock and metal side. So how do you, is it when you're just starting to write a song, you're like, okay, this could be something for Indie Tribe, or this could be something for me personally? And then your fans of Indie Tribe, when they come over to your solo stuff, are they confused? Because I love it. I love how you're all over the place with the music, but hip hop heads can be very one track mind at times.
They can be. And so, I mean, I think for me, the thing that excites me with making music is the idea of just like trying to make something as new as possible. Like nothing excites me more than like the idea of like, hey, like this is a niche genre combination of sounds that like is a new idea. So that's like what excites me and gives me the reason for making music probably more than like anything. And so like I grew up listening to a lot of metal. I would like oscillate between like one year I'd be like listening to nothing but rap, and then a certain album would come out and I would be listening to like nothing but new metal and like hard rock and stuff like that. So I just like oscillate between these kind of two cultures and passions, and now it's like I'm just trying to make what would make like 12-year-old me the happiest. And that's just like the things that are most authentic to me. I just want to do that to the max. And there's some dissonance with like, obviously a lot of people hear me like rapping on Indie Tribe stuff, and then they go to my profile for more of that and they're like, hey, this is not the thing. But that's also intentional, and you hear that a lot with John as well. And even with Dill, I think Dill, it's a subtler difference. And I think a lot of it is like themes and stuff that are touched on that he speaks on in his solo career versus like Indie Tribe. But when you introduce that element, and especially because Indie Tribe has gotten so popular now, like I've just decided like there's not a reason in me being like a John Keith that's not as good at John Keith. Like I'm gonna leave that lane to him. Like he's got that covered. Like I would much rather just lean into my passions, lean into what makes me unique, and yeah, kind of cultivate that on the side.
So do you have any more singles coming out in 2023 for you personally?
Man, I'm trying to finish it, man. It's and it is hard creatively because like for the Indie Tribe album, I had to like dig really deep into being like a rapper and try to level up like that. I think in almost like video game terms, like I'm like maxing out that skill tree, but now I have to go and build the other skill trees for like just it's totally different songwriting mechanisms and emotions and aesthetics to tap into what I'm doing. So I've been kind of like just working more on some of the Indie Tribe stuff to come. But yeah, I've got basically what I'm doing solo is I'm working on a set of like exploratory EPs that are all different kind of pockets of blending rap and rock in a way that's unique to me. So the one that I'm working on right now is called Hyper Rock. It's it's like the stuff that you listen to is taking like almost like new metal elements and then bringing that together with more modern like kind of hyper pop. Right. And something is like the idea, I guess, is I'm trying to think of like, and I think this has been endemic with a lot of like heavier and rock music, and there's more creativity now than there has been, I think, in a long time. But it's like a lot of people are just like stuck in chasing what was popular in like 2003.
Right.
And now like 2003 is like very popular again, and like everything's Y2K. And so you can people are having some success just emulating that. But what I'm trying to do is emulate the mentality that created that. So like there's everybody wants to be Linkin Park. Everybody wants to make, Meteora again. But I'm trying to think of like, okay, if Mike Shinoda was 20 years old right now and he was pulling from the cutting edge of metal and he was pulling from the cutting edge of electronic industrial hip hop music, what would that sound like today?
Right.
So like I'm trying to use the mentality of that and try to chase something that's hopefully new. And so yeah, I'm experimenting. I think on the music business side, something I'm learning is that like music is really hard to just exist in a vacuum. There's music and it's like innately tied at the hip to how you present music. So now when I'm making things, it's like I'm thinking multi-dimensionally of like not just how it sounds, but like how I can market this on social media, how I can make short form video content that feels natural to the aesthetic. The visual aesthetic matches the emotion and the sonic aesthetic to the sound, and that you don't have dissonance. Like I'm not trying to, I don't want to just like make cringy lip sync videos on Instagram for the sake of trying to make it blow up. It's like I want things to be aesthetically cohesive. So it's like there are sonic ideas that are very close to being done, and I'm trying to figure out like, okay, how can I create a visual component to this so that I can communicate it to the world in a way that's compelling. And that's like a new layer that I'm trying to figure out how to bridge the gap.
I want to tell you kudos for the name of your volumes that you did. Sad People Make Dope Music. When I first saw that, I was like, okay. And I actually sent that over to my friends at the Empty Space podcast, because they talk about like being sad boys and everything. And you were ahead of that before that became like the sad boy thing was like really kind of like a mainstream thing. And I just thought it was such a cool name of a collection of music. And you've had over the years, I mean, obviously you have the Indie Tribe guys that show up in your songs, but like, Aaron Gillespie and all of that, like you've had some pretty cool people appear on your stuff. How did that come about?
So, I mean, a lot of it is just happy accidents. Some of it is just, being bold and sending that email. Living in Nashville, it's like I have a lot of friends that tour and do things with this and that. So like I had a buddy that was doing lighting for Under Oath, and he's done that for all types of people. And I was able to finesse an email address out of that. And I was just able to hit Aaron at a time, and he posted something real quick on his Instagram, and he was like, hey, I'm like back home for a couple weeks. If anybody needs some like session work drumming, like hit me up. And it was like something he like posted on Instagram and then deleted after like 3 minutes or something. And I just happened to already have his email. I'm like, all right, well,
Right.
I'm gonna hit him up and see if he'd be interested in doing a vocal track. And we were able to make it happen. There's been a lot of things of like things that have almost happened that have been really cool, but just haven't. But you know, there's a lot of people that, especially from like the rock angle of things, I've been trying to make something happen, and that's like leaning into just a lot of people from like the hip hop community wouldn't be like pursuing those types of things, but I would.
Right.
So it was really cool at our festival this year. We had Brian Welsh from Korn come through, and like he just came to watch the set, and that was really huge. But yeah, I have like basically all my dream collaborators all come from like the rock and metal world.
Right.
I'd love to song with Sonny from POD, or like Mike Shinoda, of course. Like, so that's all like my dream list of maybe someday.
Can you believe that Limp Bizkit is popular again? Like the stands for Limp Bizkit in 2023 is a little ridiculous, considering for the last 15 years. Crazy. Well, the last 15 years, everybody dogged them.
I think there's a little bit of Nickelback effect going on, you know, so many things. It's like, you know, you had these bands that had undeniable songs that have energy that just made them like these massive hits. And then you have the cultural critics and stuff. And then people were like, how could we ever, but it's like the same people were all like, how could we ever have worn baggy jeans? Right. And now everybody's wearing baggy jeans again. So I think it's like, there's like a cycle of when like the I guess like the music elite and the critics are able to kind of like say this isn't cool and people listen to them, and then there's like a generational shift of like kids that don't care about what those music critics have to say. They're like, hey, Nookie is tough. And then all of us, the people that loved it when they were 14 also are like, you know what, I'm unashamed, like I'm like Limp Bizkit all day. But yeah, same thing with, you know, Creed, Stain, really butt rock as a whole, man, new metal as a whole. Absolutely.
So we did you did Smoke Fest back in August at Rocketown, and it was much bigger than the year before. And who came up with the idea for Smoke Fest? Was that you or Dill?
So initially, I mean, like, I think the first person that voiced the aspiration to like want to do a festival sometime, and at the time when we were dreaming, we were just calling it like Tribe Fest or something. Like we wanted to start some sort of festival in our home city, and that had been like an aspiration since like 2015. And you know, what every year it was like, maybe next year we'll be able to do that. Maybe next year we were able to do that. And eventually we got the push to do it for the first year. And first couple of years it was in Atlanta. We ended up calling it Holy Smoke, named after one of our songs. And on the third year, we were kind of just pushed to just do everything ourselves. So we moved it from Nashville to, from Atlanta to Nashville. Restructured the venue, restructured the team, restructured kind of how we did everything. And it was a big gamble, but we were pretty confident going into it, especially off of like, we were planning it all before LOWBLOW came out. Right. Yeah. So we were hoping that like the album does well, but we were pretty sure that it's like, we know what we have, right? You know, we were pretty sure that was going to be a good bump and that everything would work together with it. And yeah, man, it really kind of, it was like a dream come true for us doing it this, because it was like, this is like a legitimate venue. It's legitimately packed out. We have legitimate production. We brought on bands that were like, you know, previously on dream lists, you know, having like King's Kaleidoscope headline, having Lecrae headline. It was a really special experience. And now I think more than anything, it's like we're looking at it now and just hearing the reception from it. It's like, okay, if we continue to sow into this, it's gonna grow. We don't even know how fast it's gonna grow. Like a lot of the decisions now are like, how is the best way to scale this intelligently, covering ourselves? You know, we don't want to grow too quickly or too aggressively. We want to prioritize the experience for fans, the experience for artists is something that's really big for us. And I mean, like I'm sure you've heard what happened with like Blue Ridge Festival and stuff like last month.
Yep.
People bite off more than they can chew frequently, even when there's tons of money, tons of people that should be telling them, Fire Festival. People's eyes tend to be bigger than their capacity to handle things. So we still have very much like take the stairs one step at a time, but there's just a lot of like there's a lot of affirmations right now that are showing us that like we're creating something that's new, that has a lot of momentum, a lot of value, and we just want to steward that really carefully.
Now you guys added a fifth member after. Did it happen at Smokefest, or was it
so very last thing of the whole festival, we brought our new member on stage,
and the new single is a bop called Still Holy. How does somebody, I don't know, maybe like me, how can I become part of Indie Tribe? Because I'm sure you guys get those emails all the time from people who want to join Indie Tribe. I don't have any talent besides wearing a motorcycle helmet, but how does somebody get into Indie Tribe?
So I think so. There's like a serious answer and a non-serious answer and a different answer. Like, so one answer of that is that Indie Tribe's the idea is like there's Indie Tribe, who we are, that of like the personnel, the artists, but then there's like the idea of Indie Tribe. So it's like, and like everybody that comes to Smoke, this is Indie Tribe. What we're building, it's like, we're the artist face of it, but anybody that shares the same values, shares same missions, shares the same passions as we do, it's like that is part of the tribe, and that's like part of the whole community, even beyond like fans, but just like the other artists that came and performed at the festival, like they're all like, we call it like Tribe Unlimited. So it's like we like the idea of just creating this new kind of like status quo precedent for community, for how business is done, and seeing the outpourings of that just like grow beyond our footprint. The other side of like actually the artist roster of Indie Tribe, the requirement for us for a long time is like, now it's like we have to have like really solid relationships, like going back. Like we've all known Tori for years. We've lived life, we've done shows, we've collaborated together, we've confided personally, we've had hour-long conversations just about life. Our families know each other, because it's like when you incorporate to the level that we do, it's like these are really important relationships, and there's a lot of like, there's just a lot of skin in the game. So I mean, like my relationships with the guys in Indie Tribe is like, it's like an immediate family type of like conviction relationship. And it I mean, like, it sounds dramatic, but it's like our lives, our paths are just like so ingrained and like intertwined with each other that it's like you really have to know who you're bringing into like that. And because like everybody, and especially with what we're trying to do, man, it's like music is mental health Olympics. Like that, you take a sane person that has strong morals and convictions, this is a walk that is primed to break you. So it's like this even more like knowing, I guess, how to anticipate how we're gonna, our shortcomings and like what we're gonna do. It's like it's really, really important. So like I don't see us adding another Indie Tribe member for like a long time at this point. But it would have to be a situation where like it's just somebody that has basically been like extended family to us, and that there's mutual trust, mutual respect that everybody can really rely on. And yeah.
So the album Low Blow, what was top 5 on iTunes, right? iTunes album charts?
Top two.
Top
So
2.
so I
Not just on
top two
Christian.
well, so it was top 2 hip hop. So
Top 2 hip hop, yeah.
we were behind Travis Scott. Beat Post Malone, which is cool. I think it was top 5 overall.
On the iTunes charts.
Yeah, on iTunes. And then it was top 10 Spotify debuts, which to us, that's like kind of even crazier. Because like the reality is like not a ton of people buy albums. So if you have a very passionate small group of people that all buy your album at midnight, you know, it doesn't take a ton to pop you up on the iTunes charts, and you'll be there for a little bit. But what was really crazy even on iTunes is that, you know, the charts refresh like every 30 minutes or so. So we're like, okay, like we popped up at number 2, but like we stayed in the top 10 for like, I think like 2 weeks, which was like, that was really cool. But yeah, then Spotify is like, you can't do like the super passionate minority situation on Spotify. Because it's like a human being can only stream so many times in a day. It's like that one is like that was a crazy realization that like in the United States we were the 9th highest stream debut that week and the 2nd highest hip hop debut. So it's like that's crazy, you know. It's like we were able to like say like oh shoot, like actually no with no exaggeration that Indie Tribe is the most popular independent hip hop collective in the world. It's like, oh, that's kind of heavy, you know. But yeah, extremely thankful though.
So we got the top 10 album on Spotify, number 2 on iTunes. We put on a festival, widely successful. I know you guys have been offered contracts from people in the music industry, and you guys want to stay indie. When you guys started this, did you think you would have the impact that you did?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that this was going to be something that you were going to have labels coming out of the woodworks trying to get involved in the Indie Tribe movement?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely hoped to. It's funny because like we still remember some of the conversations that we would have of like, you know, we were like super hyped to be entertained by some of these at the time, like independent labels and stuff. And, you know, we had different benchmarks of like, oh, if we could just have this person's career or something, like, man, that'd be all I ever want. So like, we definitely, I don't think any of us like expected that it would get as big as it is.
Right.
But we did plan to do our best to get here, and it's still, you know, we're not anti-label, we're not anti-deals, we're not anti-partners, but we are of the mindset of like, we do things because it's a good thing to do and not because we have to do it, you know. Like, so so part of like, you know, I think a lot of people romanticize just like the indie grind of things, but I'm like, dude, if you get offered the right deal, if this is a life-changing deal, dude, take it. You know, like, but you have to have, but I guess the whole ethos of it is like the idea of ownership. And if you have ownership and you have value that's yours, you know what you have, and if somebody wants to add value to you, you can take it, but you can also say no, you know. So we've had a couple of friends that have gotten some of the craziest deals that I've ever heard of just from doing things, you know, just succeeding independently and having that type of leverage. You know, if you're in a situation where you're making $300,000 a month off streams,
right, you
can kind of name your deal, but you're making $300,000 a month off. But for clarity, we're not making $300,000 off stream, but we know people that have.
Right.
We know people that have, and when you have that type of leverage, it's like, yeah, there's really attractive things that you can do. So, and yeah, even some of us on the solo side are even entertaining things with like individual investors currently. And all of it is just from that position of like, we own the value. It is valuable. We're adequately valuing it. And if an opportunity comes that makes it make sense, then it makes sense,
Right.
you know. And like something that I'm a big advocate for is like, if somebody wanted to offer us like 15x a year value up front, I'd take it.
Right.
I'd take it. I would take a 15-year advance on my earnings because I can still make music. Like, and all of us believe that all of our best music is in front of us. So it's like, you know, it's like, yeah, I'd cash that out real quick, buy a couple Bitcoin, pay off the house, you know, and it can just continue to make music without any financial stress, you know?
Right.
So we try not to be dogmatic with any of it. And I think that there's a lot, especially right now, the way like the economy is, people are getting really creative with like what they invest in. And I think IP, when it comes to music, is a really interesting investment for a lot of people. So we keep our options open, but it's
well, in the punk and hip hop world, there's something a lot of these people believe, is that it's romantic to stay indie and it's romantic to stay poor.
Yeah.
There's nothing romantic about being poor.
No,
you know, there's
and all of it, dude. All of us are married. All of us have families and stuff. So it's like that's just not an option. Like, and for context, I still work a job. I actually work for UMG during like the day. And I would like to not do that, but I am very much in the mindset of my family's financial security is my responsibility. And if it's in the cards for me to be able to provide for that 100% off of my passions, dope. But like, I'm gonna do what has to be done. You know.
I wanted to ask you, especially with your solo stuff, there seems to be at times almost a spiritual struggle, you know, where you're kind of trying to figure out where God is at and all of that. One, kudos for your transparency in that journey, because I think a lot of times, especially in Christian music, everything's always great. You know, like the only struggle we have is we're in the river or whatever. How did you, because I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about being a Christian artist. But the first one is that there's so many artists, and I know you've ran into them, I've ran into them, who maybe come to Nashville or get a record deal or whatever. And as they grow in their art, their faith kind of seems to kind of get further away from the original goal. So if you don't mind, how did you come out of that for you?
So I think, one, for the most part, I say most, and I don't mean it like umbrella statement, but most Christian music has kind of left kind of a bad taste in my mouth, just because of like the kind of artistic integrity of it for the exact same things that you said. And I mean, I think, just being real, I think, you know, obviously Christianity is by the numbers the most popular, you know, belief system orientation in the United States and the world. I'd say most people don't have a super convicted or honest, I guess, output of that. You know, I think a lot of that is lip service. I think the world would look a lot differently if everybody that claimed to be a follower of Jesus actually acted like Jesus.
Right.
You know, so all of that to say, you know, I'm a very skeptical, I'm a very analytical person, and I've had to really confront a lot of those realities with just deciding what I believe, you know, asking the hard questions, doing my best to seek answers, doing my best to look at alternative beliefs, all to say it's like, I think I know who I am. I know what I believe, why I believe it. I'm comfortable with the things that I don't know because, so I talk about it on Low Blow, but like I'm, especially kind of the more studied, the more cultured I get, it's like, man, I am super agnostic to a lot of things. There are a lot of questions that I have kind of conceded are beyond my capacity for understanding.
Right.
But with that, the things that I am passionate about, the things that I do believe firmly, I believe really firmly,
Right.
So it's like, I think with music, you have a lot of people that are very emotional and emotional driven because that's how music is expressing emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those people are a little bit less strong on like the logic side.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you get a lot of people that are successful in creative arts, especially music, get really emotionally attached to something. And then they have the whirlwind of fame and success that just absolutely plagues the human mind. I'm very passionate that what is required for somebody to be able to pay their rent off music, the fame that you have with that. People think that you have to be like Bieber famous to make it like really take a toll, but like
Right.
our minds aren't optimized for like having more than like 150 relationships. So like if you have enough praise on social media that you can pay your rent off streams, you have enough fame to absolutely wreck your psyche.
Right.
So if you have that, and then you also have people that are just naturally inclined to just be more emotionally driven, yeah, you're going to have these people that have a super emotional experience and they're going to go through things in life that they couldn't possibly be prepared for. And they're going to come out of that on another end of the spectrum. And especially because music skews young too. So it's like you add all of that. And then you also have somebody that's like 19 years old having this unpreparable, unsustainable experience touring, whatever. Yeah, I think it makes sense that a lot of those people come out the other end being a totally different person, having different beliefs, all of that. I think something that has benefited Indie Tribe. Yeah, I'm 30, Dill's 31, so like we're not old, but like we've lived some life,
Right.
and there's enough to where like as the accolades have come in, it's like I think we have a little bit more perspective to be a little bit more grounded with that. And it's like, we're all pretty mature, like believers, and we have really intense discussions about, hey, I don't know if I can reconcile these ideas. How do you reconcile these ideas? Is it necessary for me to reconcile these ideas? Is it okay for me to admit that I don't know on some of these things? So yeah, I think, and looping it back, that was a really long, crazy answer, but I think, man, one of the things that we hope to change with like the way that people express their faith through music and their beliefs is like, I think as a Christian, there's this idea that your music is just like, this is your ministry, this is your testimony, so that everything has to be like this perfect little breadcrumb that leads to somebody's like conversion or something.
Right.
The way we see it is like, we have been uniquely called to be artists in this medium. We believe that means expressing who we authentically, honestly are as we are, ugliness and all, right? So I think a lot of Christians think that there has to be like a resolution to everything that they make. But like sometimes, like I think the best art, like a lot of it doesn't have a resolution. It's like that's a difference of somebody telling you what to think and what to do versus like provoking a thought or provoking emotion that causes somebody to think, more introspectively. And just, I think if we can provoke people to just even contemplate and think on their own, then it's like that's doing all that I want.
Right.
Like that's where people come out on the other end of that's between them and God. Indie Tribe, we don't even all believe all the same things.
Right.
We believe all the same core things, but like, man, there's a broad umbrella of where people believe. But as a Christian, I don't see anywhere in scripture that Jesus commands us to have 100% theological accuracy and 100% perfect understanding of all these things. In fact, there's more places in scripture where God says, look at the Leviathan. I'm the potter, you're the clay. You're not supposed to understand. That's not your place.
Right.
You know,
you mentioned Leviathan. I told you I was going to bring this up in the song Casket, which I think for all you people, CC's great, Act is great. Casket that's the bop on Low Blow. All right. That is the bop. But you mentioned one about how people know all your views because they watch some dude on YouTube misusing some scriptures. I think anybody who follows Jesus has gone through that. Okay. Where, oh, I watched this. Like, that guy doesn't even know. That doesn't even make sense what he even says. But you talked about the spirit of Leviathan. That's one you don't hear a lot of in Christian songs. We hear a lot about God's love. We hear a lot about faith. Well, Christian music, everybody talks about water, rivers, oceans, whatever.
Yeah. Ambiguous nature metaphor.
Yes. It brings me closer to God to think about water, apparently, in these people's eyes. Who throws in the spirit of Leviathan in a hip hop song, nonetheless?
So this in 2022, one of the things as Indie Tribe, like I said, like we're family, man. Like our group chat is active all the time. We're always talking to each, like literally I have talked to these guys every single day without failure for like since I've known them. Right. You know, but we decided to try to read through the whole Bible in a year in 2022. And we had, discussions every week. We were all on the same kind of plan and everything. And an area that just messed all of us up was Job. Like the book of Job messed all of us up. Because it's like we're really trying to understand this and understand the context of everything. And it's like, man, it's just difficult challenges. So what we were in the middle of reading this, and then we always like whatever we're reading or what we're involved in, it always ends up into like slang that we use. Right. So we were just talking about the whole concept of when the Leviathan's introduced in Job, of like, Job's decides that he deserves an answer from God why everything is happening as it is. And then God just flexes on him. God does not give him an answer at all. He just says, hey, yo, look at this thing. This is the craziest creature that you could ever imagine. I created that thing, the Leviathan. It could step on you. It could destroy you. You're nothing to the Leviathan. So what are you to who made the Leviathan? Right. So it's like, that's crazy. So we started using that as like shorthand of like anytime something would happen and we'd get like a little bit gassed up or start feeling ourselves, be like we'd text like, oh, brother, you need to gaze upon the Leviathan. Like you're getting too cocky, you're feeling yourself too much, you need to gaze upon the Leviathan. So then it just became we would shorten that to just saying, all right, instead of saying like I'm tripping, we just say, "Oh, Leviathan, I'm back." Right. I looked at Leviathan. I'm back to earth. I'm back to sanity or whatever. And then we just named our group chat Leviathan, and it's still named Leviathan. So when we were working on the album, it's just like I had to throw that reference in there.
I mean, whoa, wait, what? Okay, you don't hear that a lot, but I have two more questions for you. One of them being, who is the guy in Indie Tribe who's gonna? I think I might know, but who's the guy who's gonna throw, like, if you mess with us at the gas station where we're recording our videos, he's gonna be the first one to try to throw the punch. Who?
Michael, 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Not. We've had to talk Michael out of that situation multiple times.
He gives off that vibe. He gives off that vibe. And lastly, I just want to I want to thank you for the impact. I was actually talking to my youth pastor at my church, and I was like, "Hey, have you heard the new Indie Tribe?" This is a few weeks ago. Shout out to Pastor Jonathan. And he was like, "The one thing I love about these guys is how bold they are in their faith with their music." And my question to you is as we talked earlier, I mean, how many billions of people claim to be Christians? Hip hop is one of the biggest genres of music. But to quote Ruslan here, shout out to Ruslan as well. It seems like God has a lid on Christian hip hop, that it should be bigger than what it is. And you being in it, you being in the industry, people are looking up to you guys now. You guys are kind of a leader because hey, even I want to be part of Indie Tribe at this moment. Why do you think there is a lid on the CHH movement?
I think there are practical things. I think some of them are kind of like what even Ruslan got to. I think that within Christian music in general, there were a lot of things of the way the industry kind of moved. And just if you look at like the history and stuff, like things used to be crazy. And especially, coming from the rock angle, some of the biggest bands on earth were Christian bands for like a while, and then once you got the post-hardcore thing, people would almost just call it Christian core because it seemed like half the bands on like Vans Warped Tour were like an undercover Christian band or something. They
were signed to Tooth and Nail.
Shout out Tooth and Nail. So I think that there were things that came on the back end of that pragmatically really hurt things, especially when it came to Christian hip hop. And I think a lot of it came from a good place, but it's like the downstreams effects of it were rough. There was a movement with like Cross Movement and early Reach Records where people were really, really about like, this is ministry. This is ministry first. This is what we are here to do. And what that meant is that people like had an aversion to like making money. So they would do like Reach Records, like Unashamed tour for like $10. Right. And so or like Winter Jam for like $5. Right. But what, and I get the heart was good because the heart was like, we don't want finances to be like an impediment to anybody being able to come here and be a part of the movement, right? But what it also did to the market is it said, hey, you can see the biggest, most relevant artists in your space for $10.
Right.
That's what it's worth. Right. So if you don't have the capacity, like if you're in early Indie Tribe and you're trying to bootstrap some tours and stuff, people are like, well, we can't sell enough tickets to do the scale to even pay for our expenses at a $10 ticket. Right. So like we don't have the economy scale to make that happen. So then people are like, oh, so there's an Indie Tribe show and the tickets are $35, but why would I go to that when I can see Lecrae and Andy Mineo and Tripoli and KB? I can see them all for $10. Right. So it skews the market and it creates a culture where people, it's like kind of, you set people's expectations of value sometimes by the price, right? So, and you create a culture of people that say, like, do you want to go to the show tonight? Well, I don't know. It's $10. I don't have anything else to do, so I guess I'll go, or whatever like that. So part of like what we're trying to do with Holy Smoke is on the practical part, we're trying to reset that. And we're trying to say that like, actually, these artists are worth more than $10. These artists are worth $150, and when you do that, it's like you're kind of resetting the economy to work, because if you can't do hard tickets, if you can't do live touring, that's how most people make their money. That's how most people are able to do, music full time. And for a long time, specifically in Christian hip hop, people have been like reliant on these like soft ticket shows. It's like some church with a programming budget, they'll give you an unreasonable amount of money to pay for people that are going to be there regardless. Right. So people survive off of these like super inflated show prices that they get, but they can't actually command it in the market. So like that's part of what we're trying to reset. And what we found is when you do that, when you make an event and you have 1,000 people coming out that have paid, really the ticket price is $150, but about 70% of the people that came to Holy Smoke came from other states, so most of the people that were there, they spent $1,000 between hotel rooms, travel, food, everything to be there that weekend. And then they love it. And then it's like one of the best experiences they have of your life. It's like, that's a higher value fan and a higher value culture that you're curating for your movement. So I think there's practical things that have put a cap on Christian music that have existed recently that didn't used to exist.
Right.
Cornerstone Fest used to do, 15,000 people in 2004. You had Skillet hitting Billboard, getting their song on. Skillet, yes, but Switchfoot. I just saw Switchfoot at the Ryman a couple nights ago on the Beautiful Letdown tour. Unbelievable, so good. But their song was in Spider-Man, and and all this stuff. POD won best metal Grammy in 2003, I think, with Satellite.
Right.
And so the cap didn't used to exist. So I think there's a reshuffling of infrastructure so that it can scale. But the thing is that like we just have to build it, and that's something that we're very passionate about. It's like there are millions of people that believe the same things that we do, have the same approach to art as we do, have the same values that we do. We just need to find them. Mm-hmm. So it's just groundwork from the floor up. On the other side, to complement what Ruslan was saying, because of like a lot of what is happening now, there used to be, especially in Christian hip hop, there was like a hierarchy of like, if you wanted to be on these shows, like you had to know the people that were putting it on, and not in a way of like politicking or something like that, but like those people had to know. It's like a discipleship process.
Right.
Like they had the older dudes would like vet the younger dudes and help grow them up, help bring them up so that they could weather this crazy experience of what being even a moderately successful musician is like. And now it's like the way that people build their platforms and stuff is so decentralized. Everything's on short form content, TikTok, Instagram. You can have, a 19-year-old kid living at home with no real bills, posting 500 short form videos a year. And then, they blow up and they're doing 1 million monthly listeners after only making music for 2 years and being a Christian for 3,
right.
So,
right.
So then there's no infrastructure to support that experience. And then you have like the amount of people that have just popped off, and then I don't know what I believe. And actually I believe this now. And like, so I think there's a lot of that going on too. So it's like trying to establish, I think there's a lot going on right now where it's like we're adjusting to the way that the world works, the music business works, and also trying to correct some of the Christian music business of the past, mm-hmm. while kind of like trying to bring back some of those traditions as well of like, all right, we feel like we're super young, but shoot, I'm 30. I actually need to be in the lives of some of these dudes that are fresh into college and helping to mentor some of these people and bringing back that side of it as well. So, yeah.
There you go. Mogli the Iceburg. Hey, Prince's Chicken. I think we're like in the middle of Prince's Chicken on Nolensville Road.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think they're building another Prince's Chicken at that by the new Chipotle.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think so. But yeah, we gotta get some. I will get some mild chicken because I am not suicidal.
One of the themes I've done with pretty much every interview, whether it be I'm interviewing the Brits from in grade 2, Eddie from Voodoo Glow Skull, whatever, is I'm always like, when you come to Nashville, we got to get Nashville Hot Chicken, but you're already here, so I can just give you a location. Because like I try to tell these guys, like our Nashville Hot Chicken. I love how you just got done talking about all this stuff about like Jesus and the cross, and now I want to make a pitch for Nashville Hot Chicken. But like Hardee's and all of this stuff. Like that's not real. I try to tell these people around the country, like all that corporate stuff is not the same.
Oh, the Hattie B's, yeah.
Yeah, like Hattie B, you got Hattie B's, you got Prince's, but then like Hardee's is trying to do Nashville Hot Chicken now.
Oh, yeah. No.
You know, that's Bush League stuff right there. So as a Nashville native, So hey, love to bring you back on as we have other stuff to talk about, as you have other stuff to promote. I want to thank you for the art that you make. I mean, if it wasn't for Indie Tribe, my 7-year-old would not have walked into school in Brentwood, Tennessee, and declared to his teacher, I just dug my own grave and it's lit. So I want to thank you guys and John Keith for that line, because we did get the call from the teacher about that one.
That's hilarious.
But Indie Tribe saves lives. But Mogli the Iceburg, thank you for your time today.
Man, thank you so much.